Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Alderman Higdon will lead us in invocation.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, and we just thank you for all the blessings that you continue to pour out upon us. Father, we ask you to be with our police and firemen and our military serving around the world. Just keep them safe. Father, we ask for wisdom tonight as we make the decisions that affect the city of Hernando. That everything we do here tonight will be pleasing in your sight. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Item number 4, to approve the agenda. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve. Do we need to change number 20?
Yes, we did. 20 was added as a mistake. That's going to be the June 1st meeting.
Take it off.
Yeah, remove it.
So we will change the motion. We will change the motion.
Yeah.
Motion to change the agenda?
Yeah.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. All right, remove item 20. Is that approved the agenda?
Yeah,
We approved it with the change.
yeah, he modified his motion.
Number 5, approve the docket of claims.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Item 6, approve the minutes from the regular mayor and board alderman meeting on May 4th, 2021. We have a motion?
Motion approved.
Second.
Second.
All in
Roll
favor?
call.
Aye.
Roll call.
Alderman Miller.
Aye.
Alderman Higdon.
Aye.
Alderman McClendon.
Aye.
Alderman Brooks.
Abstain.
Alderman Hall. Alderman Harris.
Aye.
Alderman Lynch.
Aye.
Motion approved. Item 7, approve the consent agenda.
So many. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Item number 8, the city of Hernando, board alderman, mayor, and citizens would like to recognize the Hernando High School softball team for becoming the 6A softball state championships. It's the first time this has ever happened to our knowledge. Is Coach Whitney here today? Tonight? Right. Well, we thank you, and the city is very proud and pleased of the softball girls.
Any of
Hernando
them,
High School.
any of them here?
Is anyone here tonight? They really had a busy schedule. It was a last minute thing, but it was something we should recognize, but we thank you. Congratulations. Item number 9, proclaim Sunday, May 30th, 2021 as the New Growth in Christ Empowerment Church Day. So proclamation. Ms. Miller,
City of Hernando, Mississippi, Mayor proclamation. Whereas the New Growth in Christ Empowerment Church was established July 2017 by Alfonso Papa Sr. Whereas Pastor Alfonso decided to follow the vision given him by God, he created the New Growth in Christ Empowerment Church. Whereas the first service was held July 2nd, 2017 at 370 West Common Street in Hernando, Mississippi. Whereas the attendance was over 3/4 of long-time members from the congregation at the previous church. Whereas the New Growth continued to grow at the location for 2 years and 7 months as the membership increased and the location reached its maximum capacity. Whereas being led by God, the decision was made to acquire a new building in Hernando, Mississippi, off Robinson Road. Whereas in February 2020, New Growth Empowerment Church held their first service in the new sanctuary. Whereas on March the 29th, 2021, New Growth Empowerment Church, 1090 Robinson Road, Hernando, Mississippi, become the new permanent home. Whereas New Growth in Christ Christian Church is a faith-based, non-denominational organization with over 20 plus members. Whereas the New Growth in Christ Empowerment Church purpose is to serve as a place of refuge for the community as well as the spread of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Whereas empowered to impact to empower. Now therefore, I, Tom Ferguson, the mayor of the city of Hernando, Mississippi, hereby honor the New Growth in Christ Empowerment Church and proclaim Sunday, May 30th, 2021, New Growth in Christ Empowerment Church within the city, and urge all the citizens of Hernando to pay special tribute to this church on this special day. And witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Hernando, Mississippi to respect this the 17th day of May 2021. Tom Ferguson, Mayor, City of Hernando.
Thank you, Alderman Miller. Item number 10 is a proclaiming Thursday, May 27th, 2021 as Homer D. Skelton Day. Whereas Homer D. Skelton was born on May 27, 1931 in Alamo, Tennessee. And whereas he was a Christian, a successful businessman, a philanthropist, and accomplished pilot. And whereas he was a veteran of the National Guard. Whereas he was successful operating multiple dealerships in Memphis, Tennessee, Millington, and Olive Branch. Whereas he also believed in giving back to his community and supporting his community. And whereas he gave 100% of his salary from his dealerships for the past number of years to the Homer Skelton Charitable Foundation to support his church, community, public, and private schools. And whereas he gave significant donations to the DeSoto County school system each year. In 2017, he made an additional donation to Hernando Elementary Schools for technology. Mr. Skelton made sure children were taken care of. And whereas the Homer Skelton Foundation donated to the Wesley Meadows Retirement Community in Hernando, Mississippi, where the Memory Support Greenhouse was built. And whereas the number of lives Mr. Homer D. Skelton touched through his generosity was truly countless. Now therefore be it resolved that I, N.C. Tom Ferguson Jr., Mayor, proclaim May 27, 2021 Homer D. Skelton Day in Hernando, Mississippi. We appreciate both of these proclamations.
I make a motion to approve the proclamation for New Growth in Christ Christian Church.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion granted. We have a motion on proclaiming Thursday, May 27th.
So made.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Thank y'all. Item number 11. Authorized to hire Dan Kirkland Russell as a full-time certified police officer, paid at $20.59 per hour.
Make a motion to approve this is running up to 100%.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Motion granted. 12, authorized to promote Jeremy McCallum to captain in the fire department at a rate of $20.43 per hour, effective June 1st, 2021. We have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. 13, authorized to promote Daniel Barnett to lieutenant in the fire department at a rate of $17.71 per hour, effective June 1, 2021.
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. 14, authorized to promote Chris Hale to driver in the fire department at a rate of $15.34 per hour, effective June 1, 2021.
I want to approve and all these promotions based upon the retirement of one individual. So it's gonna be restricted on one exam.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Item 15, approve our audit 2019 with Fort Million Valor, Mr. David Ingles.
Good evening, how are y'all tonight?
Good.
I bet y'all been waiting on this one.
Oh, wow.
Well, I'm proud to present you the 2019 September 30th fiscal year in audit report for your approval. And I want to go over a few highlights with you, and I will, anytime you want to, you can interrupt and ask me questions on anything regarding this audit. So I want to go over a couple of things with you, kind of just show a few little highlights here. The first one, it's page 20. It's a schedule called the Statement of Activities. I wanted to kind of highlight an item near the bottom of the page called Change in Net Position. This is pretty much just kind of a show of kind of the change from the prior fiscal year to the fiscal year that we're auditing here in 19, and wanted to highlight that we have a change in net position with a positive amount. So that's more or less put more money into your coffers, I guess, for overall funds. They're about 2.33 million. I did want to show that as far as just kind of a comment on your stewardship as a board there more than anything. Wanted to show you that, make sure you knew that it increased your, it better stated your net position from the prior year. So wanted to note that. The next page, page 21, I do want to mention something about the general fund, just your general operating fund here. I wanted to make a mention of your fund balance. I think 2017 was the first audit I did for City of Hernando. I think we had a fund balance there in the general fund that's about $680,000. For fiscal year 19, we've got that fund balance up to 1.345 million. We have doubled the fund balance in a 2-year period there. So just kind of goes more or less hand in hand with the overall picture I showed you previously, as far as making sure y'all have enough to operate and get through the fiscal year. The next one I wanted to show you was Exhibit 4. Did want to make a comment on this. It's property taxes and just kind of show where we are compared to where we are. And I think these are kind of the two related items here. It's going to be your property taxes at the top of the general fund and your public safety. I think y'all are up to about 5 million in property taxes. I think the first year I audited here was about somewhere about 3.6 or 3.7. So I know y'all increased your property taxes. Same token, your public safety has gone up about $2 million. This is page 23. And the public safety, and I think they're kind of interrelated. It's kind of shows that y'all have kind of stayed ahead of the ball game here and kind of stayed up with the costs of providing these services to the citizens here of Hernando. So I did want to point that out and just kind of shine y'all up a little bit.
And it was 2 million over 2 years.
2 million over 2 years, but the property taxes also kind of commiserately increased at that point. So I kind of know where y'all are kind of putting, what buckets y'all are putting the revenues into. So everything's kind of, I mean, y'all kind of kept up with things, and even at that, you still increased your fund balance for that period of time from 2017 to 2019. I did want to point that out and let you know that. The overall picture here, I do want to mention audit findings. I had no written audit findings for 2019, a clean audit report. So nothing I have to put in a management letter or anything to mention to you. There were no audit findings, no internal control issues I noted that were anything major. So that's all been everything kind of runs pretty smoothly here, I might say. The next thing I want to do, page 58. Go to 58, there's the schedule of expenditure of federal awards. Kind of shows pretty much the federal money y'all gotten for your various projects here. I think y'all had a couple of McInville projects going on during the year, and y'all are finishing out like a signal light and maybe a sewer project or something like that. And just kind of showing you the expenditures and the money y'all receive from the federal government. That's kind of a requirement of theirs, and we'll be giving this report to the Federal Clearinghouse pretty much as soon as Katie and I'll be talking about that in the coming days, and we'll make sure that everything's taken care of on that end. So I did want to point that out. There's about close to $1.5 million in federal expenditures for fiscal year 2019. But we had no findings as far as the federal programs go. Everything appeared in order. I think all the major program there with the highway planning and construction, everything seemed to be in order. So
You do single point audits on those?
yes, yeah, just that one. That was our major program there. It's pretty much the dominant program and probably will be next year too. So, but everything kind of worked out fine.
And over a certain amount of money is when you do a single point audit.
$750,000, and that's usually our starting point. Kind of low, but unfortunately we have to, at that point, we're pretty much on the hook for that, so. But everything, Katie and Melinda Pope got everything to me, helped me compile these figures, so everything kind of worked out there. I do want to make a special mention of everything that they had done already to kind of get this audit going and finally get it to this point. So I do want to kind of give them a pat on the back there for everything they've done to get us to this point. I didn't want to mention that.
Second that.
I appreciate that. They do an excellent job. So I want to mention that. Really, the last thing, I just wanted to just highlight a few things there. I do want to open it up if any of you have any questions, if you want to talk about the audit, if you want to talk about our process, whatever. I'm free for any questions you have.
When you looked at previous audits in 17, when we audited 17, correct? Are you familiar with some?
I did.
What would you think is an overall picture of the last probably 5 years of this city? We've always been in a positive manner.
It's moving forward. I can definitely tell you that. I mean, as far as just a financial position, that's all I can comment on with the audit. You can pretty much see that pretty much as far as the report goes out. I mean, it's a march forward, that's the way I would call it.
I tell you, I don't know about the rest of the board, but with all the negative comments that I've heard around the community on this audit, it's really refreshing to hear that none of that was true, and we come out with a clean audit and everything's looking up for the city. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I got another question for you. If you're behind on the audits, you cannot receive federal grants?
It depends on the department you're dealing with. A lot of them, sometimes they're holding the entity's feet to the fire, and consequently that would be us too. Yeah, they're doing that in a lot of cases, but we talked about that. It's a long story as far as.
But some cities have received federal grants.
I've had that happen. Yeah, I've got a city around here that's had the same question you did. So I've seen it happen.
There are multiple reasons why audits aren't always completed in a timely manner. It's not.
That's correct. That is correct. Of course, it would help if I can get a few more people to do this.
That's one of the biggest problems is
I don't mind
finding someone to
competition.
do government accounting.
Yeah, there's not a lot of us around anymore. And I've got a client list, including you. I've got 23 other entities that I work with. I've got 17 counties, 6 cities, including you, and a couple of Louisiana school districts I work with. So
And
I'm always busy.
my understanding between you and Katie, Melinda's almost complete with 2020.
We can talk about that at another
And
time.
I'm just gonna do that. I just want the public to know that we're on track.
We'll talk about that another time, we'll just wait for that one. But, any other questions?
Can you go back to page 23?
Yes.
When you said, expenditures on public safety?
Yeah.
You said 2 million something?
2017, I remember there was about 7.7 million under the general fund. I'm only looking at the general fund too. I'm not looking at any of the other funds, because those, anything other governmental is usually kind of an in and out, because you've always got a revenue that'll back up the expenditure there, but more or less for unrestricted, quote unquote, expenditures, yes, 17, I remember it being about 7.7 million, and it's about 9.9 for this, but of course, that's gonna dominate your budget anyway. That's 60 to 70% of what y'all do here anyway, is what y'all provide the citizens. I mean, that's really the dominant portion.
I heard 2 million and I'm looking at 9.9.
Well, you're not gonna see, I'd have to show you the 17 report, but I'm just kind of making a comparison,
I got you.
I was making a comparison as far as I guess the ad valorem revenue going up with, commensurate with the public safety and the expenditures in that department going up, which of course, police, fire, ambulance,
Did assessments go up as well on the property taxes? So the property was assessed at a higher value?
yeah, there probably was that. I think that usually it's about a quarter of the properties every 4 years, they always get reassessed. That's kind of how usually your counties will do that. So there'll probably be some property, some assessment increases that go along with that.
And one more question, on the sales tax revenue.
Yes.
Was it higher in 19 than it was
I'd say it's about 300,000.
higher?
Yeah, 300,000 higher from 17. It wasn't as noticeable as the ad valorem. Of course, that was a decision the board made back in 17, I guess, for the 18 fiscal year.
18 to 19 was only 100.
Yeah, you pretty much kept it steady. That's usually going back to what Mr. McClendon said, that would be more or less the assessment increases.
Thank you.
When you compare public safety to 18, could you compare it to 17?
I did compare it to 17. I would say it was about 7.7 and it's about 9.9 for. And you may have had some capital items put in there, that sort of thing. I mean, you'll have some police vehicles, that sort of thing, maybe a fire truck, an ambulance. Could be part of that. And then, of course, remember, y'all had the state retirement, the retirement match went up too. It was 15.75%.
There you go.
Went up to 17.4. So that could be a good portion of it there too.
What was public safety in 15? Do you have any idea of those two?
Yeah, probably less than 7.7 million. I'd say offhand, I'd go 6. I'm thinking it was 6, right around there. It's just, I mean, of course, I didn't audit that one.
I know you didn't audit that.
That's pretty much off their statement. What do you have over there?
15.
Go ahead, look at that. That's the, about 5.9. There you go. Close enough.
Any questions? Questions from the audience? Kim, you got any city attorney have any questions?
On governmental expenditures, streets fall under what category?
They're under public works.
And those went up. They were 6% of them.
Yeah, just getting out that. Like in my year, about 10%. Of course, some of that, I mean, it's mainly your maintenance there. You might have had a couple of capital items get put in there possibly, so, but mainly it's gonna be just your regular street maintenance. Yeah, I think they may have had a loan for a street
We did.
overlay. That might be part of what that is, right there. That's your street overlay loan going towards those expenditures.
And we gave up MPO money toward the back in Bell Road, but had borrowed money to fix some of our MPO projects that we got to do there.
That makes sense.
Any more questions? Does the audience have any questions? Do we have a motion to approve it?
Motion to approve the audit fiscal year ending 2019.
Second.
Roll call?
Alderman McClendon.
Aye.
Alderman Brooks.
Aye.
Alderman Hobbs. Alderman Harris.
Aye.
Alderman Lynch.
Aye.
Alderman Miller.
Aye.
Alderman Deacon.
Aye.
Motion granted. Thank you, David.
No, thank y'all.
Safe travels on the way.
All right, 2.5 hours.
Be careful. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Carrying on. Item 16, request for final plat approval, Copper Leaf Arbor Point subdivision. Mr. B.J. Page, sir. It's a nice time, gentlemen.
Good evening, everybody. As the mayor mentioned, this is the final plat request for phase 2 of Copper Leaf at Arbor Point subdivision. Basically, when Arbor Point was approved, we had Arbor Point subdivision on the north half of the property and Copper Leaf on the south end of the property. Arbor Point was a traditional subdivision available to all members of the public, whereas Copper Leaf was a 55 and older subdivision. This, of course, is phase 2. It will consist of 45 lots. There are 43 single-family residential lots and 2 common open space areas. Subject property is zoned in the R10 single-family residential medium density district, which is a standard zoning district with 10,000 square foot minimum lot size. Proposed lots will range in size from 10,000 square feet up to 23,835 square feet, with the large majority of the lots falling in the 10,000 to 14,000 square foot range. The minimum floor area for residents is proposed at 1,800 square feet, which matches the requirement of the previously approved phase 1. Giving you the setbacks that will be applicable to this development. In terms of staff comments, phase 2 will complete Copper Leaf. Any public improvements or common elements required in phase 2 on any previously approved phases must be completed and dedicated to either the city or the homeowners association as applicable. A review of the declaration of covenants, conditions, and restrictions of Copper Leaf at Arbor Point subdivision. There are a number of what I would consider to be essentially minor errors that need to be corrected. I would draw your attention, though, to the last item, which is item K. It's at the top of page 3 on your staff report. The phase 2 covenants do not include Article 7, which is housing for older persons provisions that is contained in the phase 1 document. Okay, so if it is approved, as submitted by the developer, this would not be, phase 2 would not be a 55 and older subdivision. It would be a traditional subdivision in the vein of the Harbor Point subdivision. Planning Commission reviewed this request at their meeting on May 11th, 2021, based on a finding that the city's final plat generally conforms to the requirements of the approved preliminary plat of the city's codes and ordinances. The commission voted to recommend approval of the final plat. Now, I would note that this is a split vote. It was not a unanimous vote. You had 6 people in favor of approving the final plat. That was Ashworth, Carter, Cotton, Hawkins, Jordan, and Skeen. And then you had 2 commissioners that were against approval. That was Ms. Jernigan and Ms. Whitten. Since it was a 6-2 vote, the motion to approve, or recommend approval, I'm sorry, passed. You have a list of the proposed conditions. We need to adjust the owners and mortgagees certificates. We need to revise the plat to correct note number 1. We need to reflect the section corner tie-in. We need to be sure that all of the various common elements are dedicated to the homeowners association. Phase 2 are deeded over, and we need to get a copy of those deeds transferring the common elements submitted to the staff for inclusion in the file. Item 5 addresses all of the various issues with the restricted covenants that I mentioned earlier. Now, I would note that in the motion to recommend approval, Planning Commission included, as it relates to the restricted covenants, that the Phase 2 declaration of covenants, conditions, and restrictions of Copperleaf and Arbor Point subdivision be revised to include Article 7, housing for older persons provisions, as contained in the recorded Phase 1 declaration of covenants, conditions, and restrictions. So they're basically recommending that that be put back in the proposed covenants for Phase 2. Again, as Phase 2 completes the subdivision, we need to ensure that everything is done and dedicated. Then from item 7 through 17, those are our standard subdivision conditions. So I'm not going to go into those unless anybody has any specific questions. And that's my report. Does anyone have any questions?
Comment for clarity purpose, for myself, I don't know, everybody else might not be concerned, but in our general requirements, where is it noted that they're requiring the developer when and where to put up speed limit signs and stop signs? Where is it in the document, and when are they supposed to have those up?
That's part of our public improvements, and they all have to be up.
Where is that listed in the document?
Okay.
And let me go on to my point so I won't
Sure.
prolong the time. Because several subdivisions do not have them up, and have not had them up, and they've been cleared. So if those items are not put up, how would that subdivision get cleared?
Well,
And that's happening, and the city inspector do that, correct?
it's my understanding, that when, and I can't speak to the exact process because planning does not handle that, okay? It's my understanding that when before improvements are dedicated, accepted by the city, that we have to get a sign off from the city engineer's office as well as Public Works.
Well, Mr. Joe Franklin, Public Works, then, I asked y'all the same question. Y'all heard the question, so I don't have to repeat it. When are these things supposed to be done prior to being signed off, so we won't be getting any complaints?
Okay. Well, we do a bond for the signs, street signs and stop signs. Not been requiring a speed limit sign. but we do require that they have the signs up or they bond for the sign.
So, Mr. Assistant Police Chief,
Yes, sir.
if somebody have a record there, no stop sign, since they were bonded, where are we at then? Because every street is just served, no stop signs up, so ain't nobody got to stop. Correct?
I'm not a lawyer, but if it's not turned over to the city to maintain it, then it would be the subdivision, the developer.
But I'm back in,
I agree with that. I mean, they should put them up.
well, I'm just hearing from an engineer now. So we got a problem. So we need to
Once
correct.
those streets become public, traveled by the public, the traffic control devices should be installed, which would be the sign.
So we shouldn't wait just because they got a bond up, correct?
But the bonds make sure that they put them up.
Yeah, but at the time that the city take control of the street, then they should go up, correct?
If it's supposed to be a stop sign or a yield sign, or
So,
there's supposed to be some type of traffic control signage there, yes.
I hope y'all do what's fine. Some of y'all probably ain't got them problems, but anyway, I'm through.
One thing I would mention is that, generally speaking, you know, Joe Frank was talking about the fact that improvements are bonded. Before the board releases a bond, you know, then everything should be in place. Now, in terms of who's supposed to check that,
I realize all that.
yeah, I don't know how that.
Can we make sure that Article 7 is put back in the request for final plat approval?
Yes, it actually states that, you know, all of these things have to be, you know, basically the covenants have to be corrected before we'll record the plat.
So they're definitely in there.
And they have to submit a copy back to us, you know, showing that it's been recorded because Chancery Clerk's.
And then once the streets are turned over to the city, then the proper signage and all that kind of stuff goes.
It would be,
No,
maybe I'll put it in first.
no,
Put it in first, but
yeah, those should be in before, because the streets,
I don't think
the
it's
streets
that.
travel when, a lot of times they don't even have a final lift of asphalt on there. And they should be putting the signs up on their street signs or wherever they're gonna put them. I wasn't aware there was an issue until just a few minutes ago.
Any other questions?
I got one. You got one? No, go ahead.
Typically, when they vote, yea or nay, there's got to be a finding. There were 6 of them that voted for it. What was their finding, why they voted for it? And then the 2 that voted against it, why did they vote against it?
Well, you know, in terms of the people who voted, you know, and approved it, you can note that in the motion, it states that based upon a finding that the submitted final plat generally conforms to the requirements of the approved preliminary plat and the city's codes of ordinances. You know, that's their finding, you know, that they voted for it because, they found that it met the preliminary plat and conforms to these codes of ordinances, subject to these conditions that they have passed. And in terms of the people who voted against it, you know, we don't have a particular finding, you know, because it wasn't the majority opinion. Now, all I can say on that was, you know, I think that they're, you know, I hate to speak, you know, for someone. But, I think there was just a general feeling among those 2 commissioners, just a general dissatisfaction with the development as a whole, how it had, you know, there were issues about drainage they had concerns about.
Well, since you brought that up, let's just talk about it.
Okay.
What's the drainage problem we got over there?
Well, pose some questions wrong at, Joe. Do we have any drainage problems on it?
I only looked at one problem that's been called in, and that was, last year. Developer, worked on that situation. That's the only one I know about.
According to the homeowners over there, I think there's 2 or 3 over there that's dissatisfied with it, and they're still dissatisfied with it. That's probably about 2 months ago. Has it been since, in the last 2 months that you talked to them?
Yeah.
Kristen, you're aware of this as well, aren't you?
Yes,
Did you mention to Joe Frank about it? Asking him to go over to look at it?
yeah, we spoke about it, it's been several months ago.
And you hadn't went over and looked at it since?
No. I know I've had a complaint from a house that they just weren't satisfied with the remedy that was done between the homeowner and the person who built the house. And so the house has been found out. People have been living in it, so I don't know that the city has a recourse on private property.
Well, if it's still flooding and the city is the one that approved the elevations, I see where the city would be responsible.
We don't approve the
No,
elevations.
we don't approve
We don't approve the
the
elevations.
original dirt work on it. We don't approve to make sure that the elevations are correct and it's gonna drain correctly.
We do that, but people build houses and they change the
Why don't we,
elevations of the house.
well, why don't we go back and check?
We don't do that.
Well, why not? Do we not have a,
We're not all.
Mayor, do we have a drainage issue in Hernando?
I didn't know, I wasn't familiar with this one,
Yeah.
but yes, we have. My understanding is, this first I heard about it, but I do know Joe has been following the code where like 10 foot out, you have to have a 6-inch fall, something of that nature. He's been watching it pretty close, but just maybe a question for Nick. Would that be a question for you, sir?
I can't elaborate on what I know about it.
I mean, that's kind of what I am. I didn't know.
Well, if we're approving the elevation from the beginning, what's the point? If you're not gonna go back and check these builders every time they build a house, because what they'll do is they'll change the elevation to fit themselves, to drain to get the water off of their property. Let's just do it to the next home builder over there.
That's exactly what they do.
And that's exactly what's been going on, and that's exactly why this city has so many problems with drainage issues.
It would take a full-time person to keep up with all the slabs being built. But you're exactly right, that's what they do. They change the elevation.
Do we have any fines for when they're caught doing that?
I don't think so.
So it's something that we can
It's not
control,
the
it's
city
just- we're just not doing it.
City's not doing it.
Right.
That's the.
So it's something that we could do, but we're just not doing.
You would have to hire a lot of people.
We'd have to have a full-time engineer with staff.
A lot, yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
that. And the thing is that they almost have to be inspected daily. That's a lot. Not saying you couldn't do it, you just have to devote a lot of resources.
Okay. All right. Bobby Stewart, can I call you out for a second?
Yeah.
What do y'all do over there at Johnny Coleman's? How do y'all eliminate that from happening?
Well, original plans a lot of times are just like, if the road's falling,
Mhm.
it might carry a grade 5 blocks and then drops. But I set all John's pads up, builder ready, and I develop it for him.
So basically, you set the pads up.
Yeah, you need, on those size lots, above curb, minimum a foot to drain from the backyard back over the curb.
Well, why can't we require everyone else to do this? If it eliminates the problem.
We ask, everybody to, if they build their houses, let the water that falls on their lot stay on their lot and be diverted to the street. Now, I've looked at lots in certain subdivisions where the house and the driveway and the air conditioner takes up the entire lot.
Mhm.
So there's really nowhere for the water to go other than try to travel on another block. So you have different situations like that.
And there's nothing the city can do about it.
Can we not change the grading ordinance?
We look at every single slab and stamp every slab that it's okay, yes, we can fix that.
I don't understand why we couldn't fix it.
We could.
I mean, if they want to build here in Hernando, they'll pay for that engineering. Or they go build somewhere else. I mean, that's all, I've been here 12 years and I think everybody up here that's been here, everybody can sit here and agree with me. That's all we hear is drainage issues. And it's always comes back to the developer and they're always pointing their finger back at the city. I know a couple more subdivisions as well. It's the same, I've been to some houses that you can see that the backyard is lower than the front. And it should be drainage to the front. But originally, when you approved it, that's not the way it was.
That's correct. They'd have built their house 8 inches higher, they could have remedied that situation.
Right.
A lot of grades sometimes are curb level, and they do need them. A lot of builders don't pre-grade their lots, you know, to raise them up, get proper drainage, they just build them.
I'm saying, I got one more, BJ. Step forward and say your name, please, sir.
My name's Bob Ryder. I've done a little development here in this town, and I ran into this problem lots of times. As a developer, you go in and put it to grade as the city wants you to do it. Then you sell a lot to an individual. Like if I sold you an acre out in the country, an acre somewhere, you're gonna do what you want to because you own it. I can't come in there and tell you what to do with that land. So the problem we've got, which I've been dealing with this for 20 years here, if we go in and we develop it right, we get the draining right, we get it all approved, then the builder comes in, takes the lot and do exactly what you say. They take the dirt out of the backyard, put it up to the slab to make it legal. And then, but the developer always gets blamed for it. So I don't know what the city needs to do to go past that stage to get the builder that comes in and buys a lot. They own it, you can't tell them what to do with it. Make that some kind of a law, I don't know, or some kind of a rule, but once we develop it and we get it approved, we sell it, we got no say so. I can't go in and tell other people, you put the slab too high, or put it over here, or put it over there, put it in the backyard, we can't tell them to do that. So they go and change the elevations that we did, and then everybody comes back on us. They need to figure out some kind of a stage after the developer sells the lot, like you say, the inspector or some kind of a bylaw that they have to go, because see, we have to do a erosion control plan for the state, and we have to make sure the water flows to the streets, because they're considered the river, the ditch. And when we sell the lot, we get this paper signed from the state that the people, the homeowner takes over the responsibility to make sure the water goes where it's supposed to go. So it takes the liability off of us. So I fill out these forms and send them to the state every time I sell a lot. So I don't know what you guys can do to prevent it after we develop it according to all the rules and regulations. Then we sell it is where we lose control.
Right.
So
I think we're getting kind of off subject here with this plan, but you're right, that needs to be looked into. And also common open space being a ditch needs to be looked into. That's, Nick will agree with me on that motion.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's get back, Big J.
I do, on the covenants and restrictions for use, page 10, section 1. No lot shall be used except for private residential purposes.
Yes, sir.
And then if you flip over to, where it says section 3, prohibited uses, nuances. And then where it says C in section 3 on page 11. No business activity of any kind, whatever, shall be conducted in any building or in any portion of said property. So what keeps a developer from selling off the lots to a hedge fund that owns a rental company? How do we protect ourselves as a city that this developer won't sell every lot in that subdivision as rental property? In essence, making an apartment complex.
I understand what you're saying.
So what kind of wording do we put in here to see that that doesn't happen?
Well, I'm gonna have to defer to our attorney, because I'm not sure that there is anything.
I don't know if there is anything.
So
So
we
no,
can-
it's a problem.
Every subdivision we have,
It's a potential.
if they're saying, let's just use.
Well, I mean,
hedge fund.
let's put it out on the table. It's happening right now.
Absolutely. How do we as a city?
I don't know that you can. I mean, I would have to research it. I mean, but I don't know, when I buy a house, it's my house. Who I sell it to, it's my business. There's a lot of other issues involved in that, It's a fair housing law, and, I don't know that there is an answer. I mean, I'll be glad to research and see, and know that we're not the only city that's probably facing that issue. But it's happening right now in Hernando.
So
Now, nobody, to my knowledge, has bought a whole development, but I wouldn't be surprised if that happens.
But I tell you what, the biggest issue that I've come across, in Olive Branch, for example, we had a developer come in and develop a condominium project. And then there was a downturn, economic downturn, and he went bankrupt. The bank took the condominium project and sold it to a single owner like you're talking about. And instead of being home ownership type uses, it became basically, as you said, an apartment company. If it was just wording, hey, I can come up with wording. Now, whether it's legal wording or not, that's why I have to be very finished, because I couldn't tell you for sure.
if you can research that, and
If y'all would commission me to do that, I'll be happy to do that.
that'll be something.
I mean, I'd be happy to do it, but it would be, something, it could happen. It's not happening just in Hernando, just to be clear, it's happening all throughout our county.
Do we have any HOAs on the books that says so many rental properties can be?
Oh, we have HOAs that enforce it and say you can't have rental property.
In the city? We do.
Yes, we do.
I know one in the county, but also,
But, that's a tough subject.
we've had a lot of HOAs fail also.
We've talked about that. You've got to have a strong HOA.
So what protects the city? I'm gonna go back one more time. What protects the city?
What do you mean? I guess you stop development. I mean, that would be the only thing you can do. You would just have to stop it, because it's gonna happen.
What protects the city if an apartment complex, you say, wants to come in and
Well,
develop?
let's take that.
Multi.
Let's take, for example, the old high school football field. The development right over there? That was presented right in this boardroom as a home ownership development. To my knowledge, not one unit's ever been sold over there. You know the one I'm talking about?
To the east side.
Correct. It's all rental.
I
Always
don't-
has been.
I don't mean to stop.
Let's stay on this.
It doesn't really have anything
I'm
to
on
do
the
with
subject.
it.
No, nothing to do with this, approval tonight.
I mean, absolutely.
I think, no,
It says it right here in the covenants.
go on, take all night on this, man. Y'all chasing something else you're trying to say.
No lot shall be used except for private residence.
And that's so, move on then, and stuff.
But your question is a different,
Yeah, different than that, that's what I'm saying, move on.
That means it can't be a business.
A business, that's all it said, nothing about.
If a private entity owns these houses, they making money on it, it is a business.
No, it's not a business. If the
Absolutely.
person living in it is living in his house, they're not operating it as a business.
Then that should be zoned as an apartment. If it's more than a certain percentage.
Well, there's a lot of people in town that own rental property.
Absolutely, dude. I'm for it, I tell you.
There's a good example.
You know what, and if we go around this block, you got a majority of rental property, and you know
Yeah,
ownership.
can we get back on track to,
The
yeah, we
question
just gonna be
is
on the
about
thing
the
with.
covenant.
All right,
That
let's-
is not a business.
Okay, what are we trying to improve here?
It's residential property owned by.
Final plat approval.
We can get on that subject, let Kenny investigate all that, what we need to do.
Hurry up.
Any other questions about comment?
Yes, is Nick here? Can you come up? You're representing them, correct?
That's right.
There's still drainage issues over there, and I know for a fact it is. And if the developer's willing to address that, you know, I'm willing to work with him on that. Other than that, I won't vote for this.
Well, I'll say this, every drainage complaint we have received, he's fixed. We, to this day, the only drainage complaint that I've been told of a year ago, me and Joe Frank went out there a year ago. Me and Joe Frank talked about a fix and a solution, and they fixed it, I think, the next week. So there's not been a complaint that I've been told about that he's not fixed.
Is there a reason why we can't cut on the south side? Is there a reason why it can't be cut back further to the line?
The south side.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a 20-foot open start buffer.
Who made that buffer?
The
The city?
city. So we can't cut it back more.
I mean, would that help the drainage issue that they're having right there?
Yeah.
Because it starts right there and it goes all the way down to that cove. And I think, you know, I'm not an engineer, so I can't sit here, but they're saying that the water comes up to the door down there at the bottom. I mean, is there a way that that could be addressed?
And that, I believe that's the same area that we looked at. They did cut in a bigger swell, they did the best they could with keeping it 3-to-1, with still keeping that buffer zone. So keeping that buffer zone is what's making that slope so steep.
What do we have to do to change the buffer zone?
Have to amend the development. That was part of it.
I mean, amending that, and if we did that, I mean, would it hurt any other part of this development? What would it basically, what's the negative side of it, I guess is what I'm asking.
I don't know.
Just, in terms of the buffer area we're talking about, that's part of the phase 2 plat, so technically.
Well, actually,
No, it's part of.
Oh.
phase 1. The location doesn't have it. So there, he's on that phase 1.
Go back to what you can looks like that. We have to have an amendment to that phase 1 plat. Which y'all could do.
What would we have to do to amend it? And would the developer be willing to,
Developers here.
would they be willing to, make those changes?
Just have to examine the cost. Of course, it'd be tight working in there behind this house. You know, at the top of the hill where the 20-foot buffer is belongs to somebody else on the other side of the buffer. So to get equipment in there, you have to work on somebody else's property and then dispose of that dirt. It can be done. but it'd be expensive.
To me, it's something that should have been addressed at the beginning, but I didn't know there was gonna be a drainage issue. Erosion issue, drainage. I mean, if we let this go, we're gonna be prepared, and we're gonna be hearing this, or this next board can be hearing this for here on out. I think it's something we should do.
That is the area I've looked at.
Do we not hear this?
It's not before you.
Yeah, see, I was thinking if it was part of phase two, then we could.
And we
Excuse us.
broke up the right part.
Since we table it and amend it.
But it's on a different phase.
Also, it's different.
This is on phase one, and this phase two we're dealing with.
I'm looking at the whole plan.
Right.
So legally, what can we do?
Amend the plan. I don't know what has to be done, so I'm not sure, but they'd have to come back with some proposal. And I don't know, reduce the size of the buffer, I'm not sure.
Now, one thing I can recommend or mention to avoid tabling phase two, since that is part of phase one, there's currently a bond that's covering drainage and anything that can erosion for phase one Harbor Point, phase two Harbor Point, phase one Copper Lake. There's still, I think, $100,000.
The problem is the non-disturbance area, that's got to change. If you've got to get into that, then you've got to change that, either make it smaller, narrower, whatever, I'm not sure.
I mean, it's giving us time to research and take a look at that.
How much is that bond for?
Phase one, I don't, I'm gonna say it's 100,000 plus, I believe. It's been 2 years, I don't remember.
Let's, yeah, and Joe Franklin and I were just talking about, he does have a bond, but the property that's having a problem is now owned by a private individual. So they can't just go over there on that person's property and start working on it without permission. So having a bond that
Plus,
gives them the right.
Man that owns the land behind
That's true too.
the property, you don't have to have the same 3-to-1 slope. So, I mean, you're gonna have to get him involved, and the flooding they're referring to is water in the backyard where it's going to the bottom of the hill and running. They don't have flooding in the house.
I mean, I'm just going by what someone,
I understand, but
told me.
like I say, a year ago, we went over there, increased the swell, and we hadn't had they complain about the water behind the house, but no flooding inside. The 3 houses that you're talking about, they're all on, like Bobby was talking earlier, but they go down a hill. They're flat, they move, they're staged down.
I walked in all of the backyard, I know.
That's right, the water's in the backyard, and that's the only way to drain it with the slope that was required by the plan.
I just don't understand why we built a house on something. Did we not realize there was gonna be an issue there?
That's what we're doing.
Right. Sir, did we not realize there was gonna be an issue there when you were building?
It's just drainage, they don't like the water back there, but how you gonna get the water away from there? Then you would put it in their house.
Yeah.
To address your question earlier too, all street signs will be placed, installed before the plat report. This
additional comment.
I mean, with this complaint, maybe we should look at drop frames and the HOA take care of it. But if the HOA fails, it comes back to us.
Well, you know, I don't know how HOA would take care of it on a private.
They'd be part of the HOA. I mean, the city wouldn't want to drain it.
Well, it wouldn't come back to the city now. If the HOA fails, that's not gonna be the city's responsibility. It's on private property.
Right. We've done that with a lot of these common open spaces.
Well, this common area, it comes back to the city.
Right. What's the remedy to resolve this? We need to vote and go on. We got a lot more on the agenda tonight.
As long as we get this right.
Well, Kenny, you understand what I'm trying to do and what I'd like to see done. And what do you recommend?
I mean, I think the city planning department with the engineers, I mean, I'm happy to draw whatever ordinance, but if, you know, if there's a problem, I mean, you got people like I do it over there. Of course, and I'm gonna pick on that development, but one thing, they probably don't have a problem over there because you got one builder over there. And he's gonna do it in uniform. Sometimes when you have different builders, kind of like what Bob Reiner's talking about, that's a problem. But, you know, if they come back and I don't know if the answer's raising the elevation or putting swells in between lot lines or whatever. I mean, but it could be done. Now, as far as inspection and watching it every day, practically, yeah, that's a policy decision by the elected officials.
Well, I'm talking about the issue we have over there now. We have a phase over there that's got a drainage issue. And they're wanting us to approve another phase, but this one we still got problems. And there's definitely still problems over there.
Is this the area
It's the same area.
It's the area, right?
Yeah.
That's the area.
Yeah. Where does that water go at the bottom of the hill?
It goes into a drainage area that they have, developed through that. It carries the water on toward the railroad.
That's what the problem is.
Why are you trying to solve this on the floor? You can't do this. I'm not about to give an answer on that fly. Okay. I guess we're taking fines.
BJ, I've got one more question. On staff comments, where phase one was, and this is under the Mississippi Secretary of State's office.
Yes, sir.
Copperleaf Homeowners Association.
Yes.
And now phase two is gonna be a different homeowners association?
Well,
Is that what you're saying?
Well, let me first begin by saying, I'm not sure that some of these comments, you know, I'm not sure that the errors that I picked out are necessarily intentional. Sometimes when you get involved in cut and paste, you know, you want to cut the things that you don't think. And all I was trying to point out there was that they reference, in their covenants for phase two, the Harbor Point Homeowners Association, rather than the Copperleaf Homeowners Association. And the Copperleaf Homeowners Association is currently incorporated under the Secretary of State's office and is considered in good standing, you know, by the Secretary of State's office. So, you know, what I'm pointing out there is, that's just a correction. You know, that should be, you know, changed from the Harbor Point Homeowners Association to Copperleaf homeowner association. And, you know, like I said, I don't know that that was necessarily something intentional. I mean, if you look at the very next item, you know, you have indexing instructions on all of these things. And, you know, the indexing instructions reference lots 1 through 38 of Farmer Point subdivision. You know, not lots 116 through 158 Copper Leaf of Farmer Point subdivision. So, you know, it's just errors, in my opinion, that were made, you know, when they put these particular covenants together. Now, they're just things that need to be corrected.
So this is the motion that we need to make, this entire A through K.
Yes, I have that all referenced under the proposed motion. Those are all addressed in item 5.
I think we need to table this and give our staff time to work out a solution to these problems.
Y'all had let Mr. Nick hadn't had an opportunity to present his side at all. He's just gotten called up here and asked questions.
Right.
So be sure. Not saying you can't table, I'm just saying.
I withdraw my request.
You should be afforded an opportunity.
Make it official, I guess it's Nicholas Brennan, 3629 College Road, South Haven, Mississippi. Represent the applicant. You know, I guess just to add before we table it, you know, we'd really like to be able to, you know, I'd be more than glad to meet Joe Frank out there, us take a look at it, look at drainage issues. There is a bond up for that phase. There's things in place for phase 1, since that issue is in phase 1, not part of phase 2. We would really like to make that request if at all possible.
Well, Nick, I hate approving another phase when the first one's not right. In my opinion, it's not correct. And I definitely think the developer is willing to do it if it's affordable, but I don't want to approve something and we still got a problem over here.
I agree.
And the only way the city can keep a hold on it is to not approve it yet to address the problem we got on the first phase. In my opinion.
I agree.
Yes, sir, please stand.
Yes. I put up a bond for every phase out there. I probably got, and that's real money. I have to put up cash. So there's probably $400,000 if you approve phase 1 of Copper Leaf, and phase 1 of our point, and phase 2. So that's 3 phases that I have $400,000. I got $2 million tied up out there now. And I've been tabled twice by the planning commission, and they voted, thank God, the other night to get it out of there. And, I mean, why am I being held hostage? I've already got 400,000 up, and now you want 2 million more to be held up because three people out of 120 have some water in the backyard. I mean, 2.5 million, I mean, is a little excessive, the whole hostage.
Yes, sir. But if I was one of those 3 people, I'd want it fixed. And
I've done everything.
And these people that bought those houses, were they engineers? I doubt it.
Every one of them did a builder walk, every one of them saw the hill. I mean, it's not like they did, this wasn't like they went out there and it was built. That house was pre-sold. They picked the plan, they picked the lot, and there is one building. I'm, just like you were talking about, Mr. Coleman's, I'm the developer and the builder. So I don't just change this lot. I have to be sure that I have a warranty department to answer to every one of those people.
Well, obviously, they're not answering them because I've got multiple, not just those 3, I've got multiple people complaining
Well,
over there. I mean, I don't know you from
I know you.
Adam, sir, and I'm sure you're a great guy, and I'm sure, I mean, I've looked at your product, and you got nice homes over there. But these people are complaining about it, and it's more than three. And
Well,
they're
also
saying
have-
you won't address it, they're saying that you won't even come over there and look at it, or your builders won't, or who your entity is, will not even come over there and address it with them anymore.
Your own engineer just got through saying that I went over there a year ago, he was there, Civil Link has been there. I addressed their issue when they complained to me, sir. As your city engineer.
It's still not fixed though.
Well,
The problem's not fixed.
I'm not saying I won't work with y'all to do whatever, come up with a solution. I can't say that I'm gonna open my pocketbook, but you got $400,000 approximately in bonds on other phases. Why are you I mean, those have no problems in them. Why not release me on the back phase? I mean, just vote on it the way it was submitted, if that's what you want to do. If y'all want to restrict the age, then that's what we'll do.
You know, when we were, I don't even want to get on that subject, but we will real quickly. When we were approving that, the age was a big difference then. But we were looking at the number of vehicles, we just looked at the number. I've explained this. I don't think that's an issue anymore, now that there's gonna be a traffic light at Green Key and 51. I don't think there's a very good argument for that. The only issues that I'm seeing over here is just some drainage issues on that south side over there. And I told these people that I would address it, and
I just told you where there's $400,000, and if you want to hold that hostage, but don't hold another $2 million.
you got a good point. Kenny, what's your recommendation?
Oh, well.
You better listen.
I mean, that's all.
I mean, we still got bond money up on that page.
Right. And just so you know, let's just say the bond, let's just say, no, this is gonna happen. Let's say Mr. Fury just left town. And we got $400,000. We still gotta get, you still gotta get permission. You gotta get over there. That doesn't fix your problem. That gives you money to fix it.
Yeah.
So I understand the bond, but that's not.
Well, another $2 million is not gonna fix it either, the
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not saying it's a money issue. It's getting it. I don't know what the problem. I've heard that there's drainage problem. It's brought up in the planning commission.
Basically, there's a buffer that can be taken back further. It would help them. It's not gonna stop, but it will help eliminate some of the drainage issues they're getting at the bottom.
Well, then, if that.
But it's gotta be.
And I would, at the very least, I would get a commitment from the developer and Nick that they're gonna bring that back. If that's the solution, I'm not saying it is, because I'm not going to say, but if that's, get a commitment from them to bring it back to reduce whatever that buffer zone is, whatever it needs to be reduced. But I don't know, I'm sitting here and saying that, to me, this isn't something you should try to solve on the fly, but I'm not saying that that's what solves it. It's smarter people than me have to make that decision. I'm saying that you can do it, but I don't think you should look at a bond as panacea.
Well, in that case, what about the subdivision that the park's trying to hold?
I'm not trying to hold it, I'm not.
No, hold it.
We talk to them.
Okay.
Well, you're willing to, what do we need to get Joe Frank to go look at the ditch and come up with any engineer? Well, I mean, Nick can do that.
I mean, that shouldn't be on the city.
Well, I can look at it, come up with a solution and review it with Joe Frank. I mean, anything we do, I'm gonna make sure I get approval from Joe Frank.
But if they have to go into the non-disturbance area, you're gonna have to come back and get the plan
then we may have to go into a non-expenditure.
That's what they're saying. And who will have to approve this?
The board.
Just besides the board. The
They
board
can give it to
has to-
Joe Frank, they'll present it to the board, and we'll vote on
But
it.
y'all are also, you said there's another entity on the opposite side of the river, owns some property over there.
The 20 neighbors.
Well, depending on the solution we come up with, we will assess the hurdles we have to go through to achieve that solution. I don't want to speak on whether or not it's clearing the whole, buffer zone or path, or at this point, I haven't looked at what a solution could be. So I don't want to speak on what might need to be needed from a neighbor or something.
See, my issue is, this has been going on for a long time, and we're waiting to the last minute to address it. And the same people have been complaining, and we're gonna wait till the night to address it, and then y'all wanna go ahead and get it approved, because you've got a lot of money held up over there, and I can understand that. But it's something that should have been addressed with these people months ago. And y'all should have sat down and had meetings with them months ago. You had Joe Frank over there months ago, instead of waiting till the night to do it.
Well, the first time a year ago I heard,
Yeah.
I heard something at the planning commission meeting, that's it. And I hadn't heard what it is or nothing about it.
Yes, sir.
I was just waiting to hear what you decide.
Oh, I thought you wanted to speak.
No.
Anybody else have any questions?
I just want to be clear on this. Is it Copperleaf Homeowners Association? Because all through here it says Copperleaf at Arbor Point subdivision.
That's the way it's referred to in the Secretary of State's incorporation rules.
It's Copperleaf Homeowners Association.
And it'll be part of Copperleaf, we want to verify.
It's Copperleaf Homeowners Association,
That's correct.
not Copperleaf at Arbor Point.
Or Copperleaf at Arbor Point is the name, that's correct.
Can I explain that?
Yes, sir,
All right,
please.
so the reason it was set up as Copperleaf and Arbor Point.
It was two subdivisions, Copperleaf one and Arbor Point.
Where there could possibly be a 55 and over, and it is. There's 36 lots that is in a phase by itself. And it has its own homeowners association, and it will have its own board.
That's phase one and phase two.
Well, if there was only phase one, and that's all there is right now, those 36 people would have their own, let me finish, would have their own homeowner association and their board, and they would govern those 36 houses. But the entire 161 lots share and pay for the entire common. And if y'all decide that you want to restrict the back, then there will be 43 plus 36 in that homeowners association, and 161 will still share all the costs. And it'll be run by Collins and Collins, and one side will have a board, and the other side, and everybody will, the common areas will be taken care of by 161 houses.
I think you answered the question before, when you said, in the beginning, it was Copperleaf subdivision and Arbor Point subdivision.
That's correct. They were both R10.
Okay.
They were approved without any conditions, R10.
And Copperleaf was gonna have two phases, and Arbor Point was gonna have two phases.
Yeah.
And Copperleaf was 50 some
The
odd.
first phase is 55 and over, yes. And the second phase has the opportunity, and if y'all want to restrict that, just vote on it and I'll go with it. Yeah, but that's not what I submitted.
That's what was sold to the board in the beginning. You had two subdivisions, phase one and two were gonna be Copperleaf, and phase one and two at Arbor Point.
But it was not approved as a condition, but
That's because we could only do phase one.
BJ put that 55 and over phase back in there. If y'all voted in that way, I'll struggle for,
It's a struggle.
no, but I'll have to keep it up. it'll take a year longer to sell.
Thank you.
I'd like y'all to put in the minutes that we're gonna address this drainage issue again. Joe Frank, Civil Links, the developer. We're gonna fix this issue. If it's under that, if it's within that bond money that's left over, all the bond money, not just for that phase. That phase should have been fixed in the beginning, in my opinion. And these people been complaining, and nobody's been doing anything according to them. And I won't have a problem with it.
We'll take a look at it, for sure.
And y'all, you guarantee that if it's within that bond money that's left, then I think he said 400,000.
That'll be, he didn't agree with money, but I'll agree to look at it.
I'm not gonna sign an open check, and I'm not doing that. I mean, I don't,
I'm not asking you to sign an open
No,
check. You
I'm
see
just
that bond
saying-
money's there. I mean,
well, I mean,
That's
like
where
I
you
said,
got
I
it
was
there.
talking about what was available on those other 4 phases.
Mhm.
But, and then we will look at it and, you know, if it's reasonable, but I mean, if it's $500,000, I'm not gonna do it.
I understand that.
And if I gotta go buy, the man next door out, I'm not gonna do that. There's a lot of things, it's easy to sit there and say, you're gonna fix it. Well, I mean, you know, at some point in time, I'd be better to buy the asphalt.
I understand. But there's, just keep in mind, there's 2 sides to it. There's your side, and then these people's side as well.
Well, you wouldn't even know my side if I hadn't called you.
That's right.
So, you know, you knew about this 2 months ago. If you'd have called me, I would've come up. I went with Joe Frank, and Nick knows, I care about my subdivision. I don't need bad press.
I understand.
But there's one guy over there called.
But I did exactly what I was supposed to. I actually called, Kristen here, talked to her about it. And she talked to Joe Frank about it. I might have even spoke to Joe Frank myself. I don't remember.
Well,
But
as I say, I accept all calls.
Okay. You got an agreement with Mr. Bryan to check it out. Nick, Mr. Bryan working with Joe Bryan. He's not
Come back
gonna
up
open
with
check.
this.
what do you consider, reasonable?
You know, if it costs $50,000 to satisfy 3 or 4 people, I mean, I don't mind doing that. I mean, but like I say, there's a lot to be, there's more than just going over there and knocking hills.
I understand. I'm not an engineer or an attorney,
Right.
so.
I think he's willing to look at it, look into it, work with Joe Bryan. That's my opinion. We've been on this subject for a little over an hour, right in an hour. We need to either vote or table. Move on.
Make that motion, Joe.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve, with the stipulations that looking at this property, evaluating it, bringing a, recommendation back to the board within the next 2 meetings.
You want to adopt the motion that's in here?
And yeah, that's fine. I don't know where it's at here.
53. I understand. Suggest that the motion part be read into the record. Just to have reference items 1 through 17 of the staff report.
Just adopt a proposed motion without reading.
I would suggest that you read the proposal into the record. Identify the one through 7. Not BJ may not.
Okay. just the proposed motion. Is that right, Kenny?
What I'm suggesting is that you would, if that's what your motion is, if that's what you intend for it to be, that you read the motion and reference items 1 through 17 in the staff report, and ask that to be made part of the minutes. That items 1 through 17 is part of your motion.
The planning commission reviewed this request for the final plat approval for Copper Leaf at Aldermen Point subdivision phase 2 of 45 lot single family residential subdivision. 43 residential lots and common open spaces located west of Memphis Street at the western terms of Arbor Point Boulevard, section 12, range 3, south of township. And west of the meeting on May the 11th, 2020, based upon finding the submitted final plat of the generally conforms to the requirements of the approved preliminary plat and the city's codes and ordinance. The commission voted to recommend approval for the plat request to the Board of Aldermen on a vote of 6. I guess that part's not needed. Is that correct? Following conditions 1 through 17, make that part of the minutes.
So your motion is to approve.
Approved,
Yes.
So it says Copper Leaf at Arbor Point at the top of this page. Is it Copper Leaf? It's not a problem. It is a problem because we started out as Copper Leaf at Arbor Point, 2 different subdivisions.
Okay. I think you tried to explain it, but you got, the problem with that is you got Arbor Point as a development as a whole, and they all have that shared walking trail and the other amenities in there. So on their HOA, if you're in Copper Leaf or if you're in Arbor Point, you're gonna pay your share for those common open spaces and the maintenance going forward. It's still Copper, you can still call it Copper Leaf, but it's part of the Arbor Point development. I mean, you wanna change the name.
Is this a name change from phase 1?
No. In fact, the preliminary plat has Copper Leaf at Arbor Point on it as well. It's only the Secretary of State's office that shows there's Copper Leaf on that subdivision.
But there is a separate homeowner association for Copper.
Like, we got a motion, correct? Do we have a second?
I just want to clarify, Jeff, in your motion, you did include with the understanding that the city and every party involved will work together to try to resolve the problem. Water drainage issue, that was part of your motion.
Yes, sir.
That was the first portion.
Yes, sir.
That's second.
Roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
She ran out of time.
Kathy?
Who can blame?
Yeah, I had it on mute.
Alderman Hogg.
Aye.
Alderman Harris.
Aye.
Alderman Lynch. Aye. Alderman Miller.
Aye.
Alderman Houston.
Aye.
Alderman Lincoln.
Motion carried. Thank y'all.
Thank y'all.
Item 17, request final plat approval of Jefferson Estates. You go all the way back over there?
And get all the other reports on it too long. You think I was gonna deal with it? Okay, this is, section D of Jefferson Estates subdivision. It is not the final phase of this subdivision. There's still additional property in this development to be developed. So, we're not dealing with an end of the road type situation. In your staff report, I've given you a quick breakdown of the 3 previous phases. Basically, it will consist of 22 lots, 21 single-family residential lots, and 1 common open space. The residential lot sizes range from 12,581 square feet up to 58,394 square feet. The majority of the lots in the 12,000 to 16,000 square foot range. The minimum heated floor area for all residences in the subdivision is 2,000 square feet, exclusive of garages, open porches, and basements. The restricted covenants recorded with section A were also attached to sections B and C through the recording of a declaration of joinder, and it's anticipated that the developer will use the same approach with section B. Under staff comments, drive-through of the development reflects that the public improvements appear to be in place, with the exception of the final layer of asphalt, which will occur following construction in the majority of the homes, and sidewalks, which will be installed as each residence is constructed, which is the typical process. As previously noted, section D does not complete the subdivision. However, a recent drive-through reflects that all the common elements approved with the original PUD agreement have been installed, with the exception of the most recent sections of the development, where the common open spaces are still under active construction. And that's common open space lot 123 in section B, and common open space lot 150 in section C. And basically, they've been constructed, they just haven't been stabilized yet in terms of, they're both basically retention basins. And they just need to have their, grass planted and their banks stabilized. Also, check of the tax info on these properties indicate that the two common open space areas have not yet been transferred to the homeowners association, which is probably because they're still under construction. Planning Commission reviewed this request at their meeting on May 21st, May 11th, 2021. Sometimes I talk a little faster than my mind operates. Based upon a finding, the submitted final plat generally conforms to the approved preliminary plan for the plan unit development, generally meets the requirements of the city's codes and ordinances. The Commission voted unanimously in this case to recommend approval of the final plat to the Board of Aldermen, subject to the following conditions. We have some revisions to the plat. I won't go into any detail there. We need to be sure that the homeowners association, is established, and that we get copies of the finalized paperwork and all that sort of thing. We also need to be sure that the covenants are addressed. So there's condition number 3. All common elements required in all previous sections must be completed and dedicated to the homeowners association prior to the issuance of the building permits in section D. And then item 5 through 16 are our normal subdivision conditions, standard conditions. So that's my report, unless anyone has any questions.
You got this stubbed out road, correct?
Yes.
Is it gonna be a road to nowhere?
Well, it's basically stubbed out to the south. There is a property, of course, between this property and St. Ives, which I know is where the concern is. It does not stub out into the creek. It stubs out before you get to the creek, because that creek is on the other intervening property. So the bridge issue is not there at this point. Basically, in terms of a connection between Jefferson Estates and St. Ives, that'll occur when that intervening property is developed.
Was there agreement between Jefferson Place and St. Ives to share the cost of that box culvert or bridge?
Not that I'm aware of. That doesn't mean it isn't true. It just means I'm not aware of it. And of course, it doesn't, affect this development.
So we may have a road just stubbed to nowhere?
Well, it's stubbed. I mean, that's the whole point. So that when the property is developed, the connection can be made.
Can be, but may not be, or it will be made.
Well, let's put it this way. If the intervening property, which isn't part of Jefferson State, is never developed, no, you wouldn't have a connection.
If it's developed, will the connection be made?
Yeah. I mean, that would be subject to the board's approval of the subdivision. so forth, that I would anticipate that occur. Obviously, that's a concern with the city and the board.
So in that case, is it the last one who builds loses? That'd be up to St. Ives to build a box culvert.
Well,
Would that be
actually, if you look at the aerial photograph, there's a small scale one that's more of a location map. And if you go to the second page, which is a site map, yes, you can see the creek, running through this intervening property to the south. Okay, and all this, although this won't show it, the street that's being stubbed is right in here.
You look at 34 pages.
Yeah. Basically, where this creek is at, St. Ives is way down here. It's way down south. So ultimately, the bridge is all going to be on this property here. It really isn't, it's not a situation where the creek, I think there's been kind of a misconception that the creek is somehow a dividing line between St. Ives and Jefferson Estates, and it's not,
I think it was sold to the board that they could use that as a construction entrance in the St. Ives.
I'm not sure, well,
And it's not passable
right.
as a construction entrance.
Mayor, it was also mentioned in previous meetings that, that road would be finished out with that last, I think it's, I don't remember the phase number, excuse me, but, that it would be finished out, and that was gonna be a secondary, access point to St. Ives from, through Jefferson Place. And all of our conversations when we were looking at that, that was always the promise, is that road was gonna be completed and, St. Ives would have access to that road.
I think that's still a possibility.
You keep saying bridge with a box cover, how it work?
Well, I mean, a box culvert, to me, a box culvert is a bridge.
Okay.
But,
Is that thing too big for a box cover? Or would a bridge be more appropriate or a box cover?
Box culvert.
I've been out there, it's pretty sized deal. Mr. Reiner, so at no time, there was agreement between St. Ives and Jefferson Place that this would be a joint venture of connecting?
No, the only thing that they asked me to do was stub off 2 roads. There was never a discussion of running a road from that middle over to St. Ives. There was no discussion on that. I just stubbed off 2 roads so they had access if they ever develop it, which again, I can't tell them what to do with the property. If they ever develop it, they can hook into the 2 stubbed off roads that I put in Jefferson.
Where's the other stuff at? I only see.
It's up by the water tower.
In section C.
Excuse me. I see it.
All they asked me to do is stub off 2 roads to the south, and they take care of it after that.
And
If
C
they
is-
developed it, because I didn't know for sure, because there's people that own that land between St. Ives and Jefferson. So I don't know what's going on there. They gotta get the permission from them for St. Ives to come through their property.
They're working on development now.
That's an agreement with them, because, again, I can't tell them. I just did what they asked me to do, stub off 2 roads.
Are you gonna allow their construction traffic to go through your subdivision?
Well, that's a good question. Now, I have let them come in on St. Ives, I let them come in down there by the lift station. I have let them come in with their construction stuff to get back and forth in there, that was just an agreement. We did that on the honor system, but I really don't know what the homeowners association is gonna let the construction trucks come through there. Personally, I don't think that's gonna happen. And I don't know how they can ask you guys or us to let them come through a subdivision that's already been approved and done. I don't know how that works. Because I know St. Ives got a problem, they only got one entry. And that's why I agreed to stub off 2 roads, because I knew that eventually get there. Subdivide and tie in, which is not a problem. But I don't know what the answer is on the construction trucks. That's gonna be a debate with the homeowners association more than me. Once I turn it over, I don't have to say so. So that's gonna be a nice little question.
So Kenny, can the homeowners association ask for a bond if the construction traffic of St. Ives goes?
I guess.
Yes,
They could, but the better question is, why would you want construction traffic going through a developed neighborhood?
Well, I understand, but the issue is if St. Ives has one entrance in, one entrance out.
That's true.
And legally, I believe we had this, emergency vehicles have to have 2 entrances in. Is that correct? Chief?
It depends on the number of houses, but once it reaches a certain, occupancy, completed occupancy, then I believe that's when
I'm
that.
not in control of the agenda, but if y'all would get to item 18, I think your problem's fixing to be solved. Am I right, Greg? But you gotta get approval, right? That's right.
One homeowner association.
Right.
Hey, Mike, I might be wrong, but I'm thinking that the homeowners association is not truly released to the homeowners in St. Ives yet. They're paying dues, but they're not in control. And the construction traffic is still going through them, only one entrance that they have. 18-wheelers and dump trucks are going through where kids are playing daily to build in the back. So, you know, to develop that lot between Jefferson and St. Ives, I think is way too long to have to open up a second entrance for just the safety of the families in there.
Well, this was Jefferson Estates here, so we'll have to cross that one. When we get to 18 on the agenda.
Any more questions?
Will the city or Mr. Reiner put the sign up that this will be future access road?
I'm not for sure, is that?
Will the city or the developer put up?
The city should do that, like the one right out there.
Just to let people know.
Yeah, the city should put those up.
Will be an access road.
Correct.
Now, I drove through St. Ives and went down through that development. They don't even have any roads stubbed off in that.
But Mr. Ryder, what he's talking about at the end of that stub out road, once you get your development done, there would be a little sign put by the city this is a future connecting road or.
Right, everybody knows that, yes, that would be.
But there would be signage there, because you believe it or not, some people come in and say, well, I didn't know that road was gonna go through there.
I got you, yeah, no, that's, yeah.
The city should do that, it should do it on all of them. A lot of cities do that.
I agree on.
They're very small and nice. I wouldn't think they're expensive.
But I don't even know if St. Ives has an idea of stubbing roads to the north. They got those roads stubbed out.
I don't think they do.
So I don't understand where they're going.
The piece of land in between the area does, I'm not sure.
Yeah, but they don't have anything stuffed into that land to the north, between us.
Yeah. It's the preliminary plat for St. Ives that shows the road going to the north. What has been approved so far does not go that far east. You know, so there may not be any roads shown going to the north yet, because what they've got approved for development at this point in time doesn't go that far over to where this road would be. Which of course, when we get to that point, you know, that would come to the board at that time for approval.
All right. Any more questions? Any questions from the audience? Someone like to make a motion? Amber, you don't have anything, Amy, you don't have anything, so.
I have anything to add, answer any questions, if there are any, if there are. Thank y'all for changing the film on late to the city of Hernando.
I'm ready for it.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
You want to adopt the staff comments or?
Yeah, adopt.
You what?
Adopt the staff. Like,
One through 16.
1 through 16.
We'll just propose motion on that.
Planning Commission reviewed your request for a final plat approval on Jefferson Estate subdivision section D, a 22-lot single-family residential subdivision located on the southeast corner of Holly Springs Road in Jacksonville, at the eastern terminus of Jackson Road in section 21, township 3, range 7 west, at their meeting on May 11, 2021. Based upon finding that the submitted final plat generally conforms to the approved preliminary plan for the planned unit development and generally meets the requirements of the city's codes and ordinance of the commission. The commission voted unanimously to recommend approval to the final plat of the Board of Aldermen, subject to the following conditions. Do they have to be read in the minutes also?
Propose approval.
Motion. I'm making a motion.
To staff comment.
Do we have a second?
That's second.
A roll call?
Alderman Hall. Alderman Harris.
Aye.
Alderwoman Lynch. Aye. Alderman Miller. Alderman Higdon.
Aye.
Alderman McClendon.
Aye.
Alderman Brooks.
Aye.
Motion granted. Thank you, sir. Item 18, request to rezone 54.13 acres tract located southwest corner of Holly Springs and Gilwell Road.
Okay. This is a rezoning. Dealing with subdivisions up now, and I have a change of pace with a rezoning. As the mayor has mentioned, the request was to rezone from A agricultural district to the R12 single family medium density district. Basically, this is located at the corner of Holly Springs and Getwell Road. and basically backs up to, the St. Ives Jefferson Estates area, as you can see from the location map that I've included in the staff report for you. As you can see, the west property line of subject property is actually the creek that we've been discussing. It runs kind of diagonally along that western property. So, a review of the city's comprehensive plan. The future land use map shows that subject property is designated in the master plan residential low-density land use. This category is to provide for modern, attractive, and efficient development with access needs, strict demand location along major arterial roadways. This category strives for the highest quality private and public sector development. This includes nodes and interchanges with I-29 Highway 304 corridor, does not allow distribution centers. The purpose of the master plan residential low density designation is intended to give developers the ability to be flexible and creative for development of a residential project, while at the same time give the city adequate control over the design and impact of the project. The NPR designation allows developers in the city the opportunity for a well-integrated design that is responsive to the unique locational and physical features of the site. Jumping ahead, I would note that the zoning classification recommended by the general development plan for properties identified in the master plan residential low density land use designation is the planned unit development district. Therefore, although the applicant's request to rezone the property residential would somewhat conform to the recommendations of the general development plan, the request to rezone the subject property to a standard residential district such as the R12 district would not conform to the recommendations of the general development plan, since the plan recommends the planned unit development district as the preferred zoning district for the NPR designated properties. Now, in your staff report, you have the 4 criteria that are required, the 3 criteria that are required to be addressed in considering any zoning ordinance amendment. You have the applicant's response, you have staff comments. I will not go into those in any detail. In terms of my comments, I would note that, of course, this is just for rezoning at this point in time. Any future division of the property would have to come back to the board for approval at that time. I have attached copies of the A agricultural district and the R12 residential single family district for your consideration. Because of course, one of the key items is anytime you look at a rezoning, you can't always look at just what the person wants to do. Because for some reason they may not wind up doing just that. You have to be comfortable with all of the uses that are provided for in the requested zoning. Now, the Planning Commission reviewed this request for rezoning at their meeting on May 11th, 2021. The Commission found the applicant's request did not conform to the recommendations of the General Development Plan. Therefore, the Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval to the Board of Aldermen of a rezoning to the PUD Planned Unit Development District. With the project text and preliminary development plan be submitted for review and approval at a later date, rather than the R12 residential single family district requested by the applicant. There was quite a bit of discussion of this at the Planning Commission meeting, and they were not necessarily opposed to the development of the property residential, but they felt like the HUD district, which conforms to recommendations of the comprehensive plan, was the better option than the R12 request. At that time, the applicant indicated to the Planning Commission that he found that change to be acceptable. So the planning commission went ahead and made a motion and recommended that it be HUD zone instead of the R12. I have given you a proposed motion to approve, as well as a motion to deny with appropriate findings for your consideration based on 3 criteria. So with that, that's my report, unless anyone has any questions.
For clarity's purpose, if the developer requests the PDU, or did the board give him PDU? It's very.
Okay, the developer requested.
Hear me close.
Okay,
Hear me
sorry.
close now. Say it again. Because the way the minister, it reads here, he said that the commission found that the applicant request did not conform to the recommendation of the zone development plan.
Yes, sir.
Therefore, the commissioner voted unanimous to recommend approval. The commission recommends, the commissioner recommends. My question was, did the developer request the PDU?
Okay. The developer requested originally.
I know what the original is. I understand the original. What he requested original, they plan committee told him they couldn't have.
Correct.
But you stand in the document that therefore the commissioner voted unanimous to recommend approval
of the HUD
to
zone.
the PUD. Now, my question still is, did the developer ask for a PDU after being told it wasn't going to be denied? Simple question. I mean, simple question.
I understand. And my response is that the applicant indicated his approval, he was okay with making that change.
There again, Mr. Turner, could you, I'm pretty clear with my question.
I was at the meeting and.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. Would you explain it to me? I'm just asking.
I was trying.
Clarity. Okay.
Trying.
Okay.
His representative sits here. This was all explained, and actually, the representative, which he's not here tonight, Greg's here, and he's place, Blake was here that night. But Blake said that he thought that was actually better, and that they agreed and would like to proceed with the plan unit development or the master plan development. Now, he didn't ask, he asked for R12. He amended it at the meeting and agreed with the assessment. But if you want him to come back and do something else.
I'm just, wasn't written, the way it's written in the document.
I mean, it wasn't an ultimatum. It wasn't, if that's what you're asking. Greg? He can speak to it.
I'm just saying we need to clean it up, because that's all.
The simple answer to your question is yes. We did agree to go to PQD. My name is Greg Smith with Mendrock Engineering, by the way, representing the applicant tonight. Yeah, there was some discussion, and we kind of concurred with the discussions that yes, PUD is probably better for this development. Noticing all the surrounding properties, so we have concurred and agreed to submit to you a PUD application once the zoning got approved for PUD.
And that's what a lot of discussion about the St. Ives being a neighbor property, which is also.
Yeah, St. Ives is a neighbor property. And if you'd like me to speak to the 3 reasons, just for legality purposes, I will. If you don't want to, I won't, but just stop me when I'm going to push. Okay, how the proposed amendment would conform to general development plan under our original request, it would not. As was previously stated, under our concurrence with the planning commission to go PUD, it would. They're going right along with general development plan, because the general development plan recommends to keep this area. Why the existing zoning district classification is inappropriate? Well, what you have out there now is simply inappropriate just by the fact that your comprehensive plan recommends PUD, and it's zoned AR right now, which is 8.5 lots. You have lots coming in all around it that's much smaller, so we do believe that the AR zoning is inappropriate for that area. And the third one is really easy. What economic physical changes have happened in the area to warrant the zoning? You've got all the development to the west. You've got property that's in the, I believe that it's not in the city, but it's in the city sewer and water service area to the north, Short Fork Farm. And of course, you have Holly Springs Road being developed out, which will allow a better corridor for travel. So we believe that the changes in the neighborhood are there. But short of that, I think that's about all I would speak to, unless you have a particular question, we'll be glad to answer them.
So I take it y'all don't have any acreage type lots?
No, sir. We're going for PUD. Well, there may be some, there'll be a mix of lots. In PUD, you can have a little cluster, small, large, medium size. So it's quite possible there can be some that long.
Similar to the Old Town Hernando here, where you have acre and a half lots, and then you have the town lot.
Yeah, you got a cluster of development. I don't know at this point exactly what the lot sizes will be. Other than I know they won't all be 12,000 feet, so they're not going on 12 anymore. There'll probably be some that size, there'll be some large as well. Plus a good amount of common open space. There's some wetland environmental issues along the southern border, southwestern border. We're going to stay kind of away from and just leave it green space. There'll be plenty of green space if we do the improvements that we do.
You know, had any conversation with St. Ives developer board about access?
Well, I do know there's a pre-existing agreement that very good connections made between St. Ives and this property. Our property stops right there close to the ditch, but not at the ditch. And we our plan on putting a stub road there in direct line to the road coming out from St. Ives. And so that would have a secondary entrance to St. Ives. And there is no access on Jefferson state side, because there's a code there and there's a property separated on the other one. So there's no access, would be no access there.
Questions? Questions from the audience? We have a motion.
Make a motion to approve. Do I need to read the verbiage?
I mean,
My motion to approve is obviously for the PUD, not the R12.
you would need to make a finding that, basically items that 1 through 3 that Greg spoke about have occurred or not occurred, but however you want to read it.
No, it's fairly short, I'll read. Make a motion to approve the rezoning of parcel number 307521000-0000900, which is a 54.13 acre tract located on the southwest corner of High Springs Road and Getwell Road in section 21, township 3 West, range 7 South, from the A agricultural district to the PUD Planned Unit Development District, with the project text and preliminary development plan to be submitted for review and approval at a later date based upon the following findings. And as part of the motion, items 1 through 3 are included.
Second. Roll call.
Alderman Harris.
Aye.
Alderman Lynch. Aye. Alderman Miller.
Aye.
Alderman Higbee.
Aye.
Alderman McLendon.
Aye.
Alderman Brooks.
Aye.
Alderman Hall.
Motion granted. 19, request for final plat approval of Magnolia Commons.
This item is the final plat in phase 4. Basically, board, this first appeared on the board's agenda back in February. The applicant requested to table it at that time. This is another one of those situations where we're kind of wrapping up the development, and we were looking at the improvements required to common open space that have not been completed. And basically, the applicant's concerned, when you start out at a site planning stage, by the time you get to final engineering, sometimes you find out everything don't fit when you get down with more exact calculations. And essentially, because of that and some of the severe topography in the area, the applicant was concerned that they weren't going to be able to fit everything that had originally been proposed on the property. So basically, they tabled it at that time so that they could prepare a plan to come back to the board with showing what they felt like they could achieve in the subdivision to complete these common open space improvements. So basically, I have attached my original staff report on this particular item that gives you the basically the proposed motion with the attached conditions. They're pretty standard. We have some corrections to make, but that's basically the main thing. This is really the common improvements. The minimum house size in this development is 1,600 square feet, although the developer is proposing several home designs in the 1,600 square foot range. He's also proposing a number in excess of the minimum. His intention is to promote larger house sizes in phase 4. So basically, the Planning Commission did review this request for final plat approval at their meeting on February 9th, 2021, and found the submitted plat generally conforms to the requirements of the subdivision regulations. Therefore, the commission voted unanimously to recommend the board approval of the final plat subject to the following conditions that I have listed for you there. So that's my report, unless anyone has any particular questions.
1,600 feet. Square feet?
Yes.
And do we have a requirement in Hernando about front-facing garage?
Not in terms of a zoning requirement. I know that a lot of times in reviewing subdivisions, particularly planned district type subdivisions, that can wind up being part of the project. But in terms of having like that, I'm going to this. Any questions?
No questions from the audience? Board? We have a motion.
Yes, sir.
The magnolia blossom and all this, what part of that is in this place?
That's gonna be, phase 2. I'm Johnny Coleman. Yes, sir.
So, in that area, have you got all the signs and stuff up there?
We do. We had several stove and one didn't get put up. We had a couple of police officers, contact us and we did get them up. We had several stove that we put right through the same road. So when you were saying that earlier, I understand what you were talking about. They were gone.
So
they are all up and for your request, yeah.
This morning, they wasn't all about so.
They're not in the new section. But before, when the plat was recorded, all street signs supposed to be up and all stop signs got to be up.
But they
Now,
were
in phase,
they
phase,
kind of just fell through the crack on that.
yeah, phase 2 and 3, well, they missed one sign, they did miss it, and then several were stolen. But phase 2 and 3 had been, gave over and everything, but we went back out there after a police officer's request, we put them right back up. Yes, sir. But I knew what you were talking about when you were calling.
I put them up
I
myself.
guess they
Yeah.
everybody else thought I was crazy, so I think.
And Mr. McLean, we are starting at 2,000 square feet, going to 24. We built nothing but 18 and up in that first section, so we are not building 1,600 square feet. We ended up at 125 a foot property value, and we're going to get the highest in Hernando ever at 138 to 140 a foot. So, if that helps you a little bit with your question. Ms. Jernigan brought up also about the side load garages. With the width of the lot, you just can't do it. They were run, she was worried about it, and I said, well, we do have a very good homeowner association, and they have a very good legal team, and they stay on these homeowners pretty good about what's going on. They do have the association now, it's been turned over to them, so all their legal department takes care of things like that.
I noticed some of the garages are kind of stable look compared to maybe a conventional. I'm just looking at the drawings.
They are wider lots for that size houses, if that makes any sense. That makes it, puts them a bit different, but, you know, as far as people leaving the garage door open and stuff, we do have in our covenants, they can't park on the street at night. So that helps quite a bit too. Now, whether they do or not, we hard to see.
Do you know if the homeowners association has a stipulation on rent break?
It is not. And that has to be put in the covenants when the subdivision's filed. I do several other subdivisions that it's put in, this is not.
So that's something the board wants to do.
I think the board, if you want to stop it, you're gonna have to put it in when you approve the houses. And I live in a subdivision that has some larger houses. We're having the same discussions with the board right now. And if it's not put in on the front end, you can't provide it down the road a lot of times.
It's easier to do on the front end.
Yeah, it is. And I understand where you're coming with that, because it's a problem all over right now. Like I said, I do have 2 subdivisions that we put it in the covenants right up front. I didn't on this one.
Have you got any retention ponds?
No, sir. We have blue line ditches at the bottom. We're building on top of a mountain, the highest point, basically, and it's coming down. So, into the sea, it drops 100 feet from the street to the top or more. And it's a big ditch, and we got ditches running back to the right-hand side. We did have one retention pond that we put in phase 2, the sheriff's department was put in. We did it for them. It was on an old pipe that was put in before I owned the property. Basically, I bought the property from a bank. Everything was designed before I even got it. Phase 1 was already done, which I built probably the majority of the houses in phase 1. So, but I did not design the subdivision. All right, any more questions?
Thank you for answering that about the rental, because if you don't ask questions, you'll never know.
That's true. Thank you.
Any questions? Any more questions from the audience?
We have a motion. I got a motion for the grant final plat approval for Miami Common Subdivision Phase 4, 36 lot family residential subdivision located east of Magnolia Drive, north of Magnolia Gardens Drive, northern Magnolia Drive, facing farm. finding that the submitted plat generally conforms to the preliminary plat of the development and requirements of the city codes and ordinances subject to the following conditions 1 through 20.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Alderman Harris.
Aye.
Alderwoman Lynch. Aye. Alderman Miller.
Aye.
Alderman Higdon.
Aye.
Alderman McClendon.
Aye.
Alderman Brooks.
Aye.
Alderman Hawks.
Motion granted. Thank you very much. All righty, moving on. Item 20, authorized to accept the continuing disclosure submission, Butler Snow. We have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion granted. 21, authorized mayor to sign a contract with Brandy Johnson, deputy circuit clerk for election services. We have a motion?
Motion approved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Adopt a resolution of the city of Hernando authorized to borrow funds from Trust Fund National Bank in the amount of $194,000. Parks and cemetery loans authorized the mayor to sign. We have a motion?
Motion approved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. 23, authorized mayor to sign a promissory note for the Trust Fund National Bank loan, $194,000.
Motion approved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted.
Mayor, can we get those tonight signed? Because I gotta get them.
I got it right here, yes.
Okay. Well, just after the meeting, because I gotta get them to the bank, because I think y'all want to do that tomorrow.
Yeah, I got it right here. Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks, sir.
I authorize city attorney Kenny Stark to prepare an ordinance for the water tap fees that will be outside the city limits, correct?
That's what y'all, or you discussed, yes, sir, for the 1 mile. Anything over a mile, we still have to get public service.
Correct, within, yeah, outside the city limits, but within the one.
Correct.
Okay, yes, sir. Do we have a motion?
Do we have a number on that?
That's gonna be up. I think the mayor was gonna talk to Lydia about that.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, the number will be in there before you.
Yes. He's just gonna draw it out. So I was gonna give Leo what I discussed with you today, talk about your meeting. Do we have a motion?
Motion approved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Authorize, 25, authorize the mayor to sign a service agreement, ambulance medical billing for ambulance billing and payment services. We have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. 26, authorize mayor to sign a service agreement with Syntax for uniforms for the Public Works Department.
Motion approved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Item 27, approve utility adjustment document.
Motion to approve.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Item 28, motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted.
Oh.
Thank you, thank you all.
I'm gonna have-